it's Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today we're going to be creating a card that features these two products that I have here. The die set on the left is the Forget-Me-Nots Floral die set. I designed this set for one of Simon's more recent releases. It also coordinates with this Friends of Life stamp set and coordinating dies. You don't have to use these pieces together, but they do coordinate. You'll notice that the Forget-Me-Not floral dies are a little bit larger than the floral dies that are in the coordinating die set. And that's because the Forget-Me-Not floral die set is meant to be a standalone die, so you don't need to use it to cut out any of the images. That's what the coordinating die set is for. So I'm going to be using the Forget-Me-Not floral dies, and I'm going to cut out the two floral images from purple cardstock. I'm going to cut it from both the royal purple and the lavender cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. I'm creating a floral scene here, so I want to make sure I cut out quite a few different images so that I can mix and match them on my card. I'm not going to be using every single image that I created, so I'm cutting out some extras, that way I have plenty and I don't have to worry about having too little. So I'm going to set aside the different images here and kind of sort them out. You'll notice I did cut out some of the centers for those floral images, but I ended up deciding not to use them. I wasn't sure at first for the direction that I wanted to go for decorating these florals, but I ended up deciding to decorate them with some embellishments, and I'll get to that in a minute. To add some detail to my die cut florals, you could of course just leave them as is, but I like to add a little bit of dimension. So I'm going to be using some inks that coordinate with the cardstock. So I'm using some lavender and deep purple inks from Simon to add some shading to the edges of the flowers. I'm just using my ink blending tool and adding some of the color onto the edges, and then I'm using the ink blending tool and flicking on some even darker color along the very edges of these florals. And that just gives them a little bit of extra dimension. Now the color does fade back quite a bit. You're going to notice that it was very dark when I first applied it down, and even right now it's already getting lighter, but it's still adding just that little bit of touch of extra dimension that gives these florals a little bit of interest. For even more dimension, I'm using my fingers to kind of curl up the edges of my flowers. I'm very carefully bending them around as I go around each of the petals, and that just helps make them look a little bit more curled up. And it adds that extra bit of realism that I think really makes these cards look more realistic. I'm going to end up layering these together like this. So I'm using some double-sided adhesive in between the two layers of floral images, and that's going to give them a little bit of relief off of each other to again add that dimensional look. If you're going for a more flatter card, you could skip the double-sided adhesive and just adhere these down with some liquid glue. Now, like I said, I wanted to use something different for the centers of the flowers. So I'm first taking some buttons. These are from 28 Lilac Lane. I'm using some of these yellow buttons that I think are so beautiful. I'm also going to add some more decoration to the centers of these flowers by taking some of the Jewel Drops from Nuvo Tonic Studios. I'm using the golden color here. This has a really nice, beautiful, translucent yellow appearance once it dries, and I think it looks really nice with the yellow of the button centers. For the leaves, I'm using a Copic marker and coloring in the stems because I want to make sure that they have that realistic look of having brown stems instead of green. After adding the shading with the brown marker, I took a colored pencil as well in some green color and added just some straight lines in the areas of the center of the leaf just to give it a little bit of extra realism. You could totally skip this step, but I like adding these extra details to make my cards feel more real. This frame die I cut using the Simon Says Stamp Stitch rectangle dies. It was actually left over from another project that I never ended up using it for, so I went ahead and grabbed that. I basically just took two of the stitched rectangle dies and nested them into each other and die cut that in my Big Shot machine, and that gave me this really nice even frame. I'm arranging these floral images onto my frame and around it, kind of tucking some in and leaving some nested around the edges. I want them kind of crawling up and around the edges of this frame to make it look like they're growing, kind of almost like on a trellis. I always thought that looked really pretty in gardens, so I was kind of using that as inspiration for what this card was turning out to be. I also had this other die cut left over, which I'm just kind of ripping off little pieces of, so that way I can tuck some of those smaller pieces in and around the areas of my floral arrangement. To adhere all of these florals down, I'm using liquid glue, although I did add double-sided adhesive to the back side of the flowers. For embellishment, I used some more 28 Lilac Lane products. These are some beautiful half pearls in a pink color. I think they're so gorgeous. I'm also using some more Nuvo drops. This is a pearlescent purple that matched the lavender really nicely. And then I brought in some of the yellow gloss to add in some of that yellow and pop out the yellow that I have in the centers of these flowers. Finally, I also used a white gel pen and added some more dots, this time kind of in and around the different areas where the leaves are and kind of adding them near the little dots of embellishments that I have. I just think it really finishes off the background and adds some interest. So it's now time to add my sentiment. And for this, I'm using the Friends of Life stamp set. I'm going to bring out the word friend. I'm going to ink that up in some of the deep purple ink from Simon Says Stamp. This matches the royal purple cardstock beautifully. I'll cut this out with the coordinating die, and then I'll be able to stamp a supporting sentiment onto some banana cardstock from Simon Says Stamp with some Golden Locks ink. This nice tone-on-tone effect really looks nice together and matches the yellow of our Nuvo drops beautifully. I popped up that sentiment banner with some foam tape, and I'm also going to pop the word friends onto this as well with some double-sided foam tape, but this time I used 2 layers behind the word friends. My final detail, I'm adding some glitter to the edges of the flowers and also in certain areas of the leaves. I'm doing this kind of randomly because I don't want glitter over top of everything, just certain areas to add a little bit of highlighting and interest. This little bit of detailing goes a long way because all these little details come together to create this beautiful card. So by doing things like adding the beautiful embellishments to the centers instead of using the die cut centers, and adding some beautiful half pearls and Nuvo drops really brings this card to the next level and creates a really beautiful effect. Even the details of adding the brown stems to the leaves didn't seem like much, but when you look at it here, you can see they have a more realistic appearance instead of looking just green. So think about it when you're creating cards and floral arrangements such as this, or any types of a card. Think about what kind of details you can add to your card to bring up the design a level. It really makes a difference, and I hope you will be trying this out on your upcoming projects as well. If you enjoyed this video, here are a couple more you might find interesting featuring Simon Says Stamp products. Please give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more inspiration. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye!